All right, series and Silliness Outcast. I have a really interesting person coming on today with a very interesting story. This is Christina, and Christina is a sex worker. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes,
So this is the first time you've been on my channel, so I want to start from the beginning. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Salt Lake City mostly.
Salt Lake City, Utah.
Hmm.
And what was your childhood like growing up there?
Um, my childhood was difficult. I moved around a lot. I went to six different schools my freshman year of high school alone. I don't even know how many elementary schools I went to.
Okay. Now, why was that? Why did you move around a lot?
Um, well, my parents were drug addicts when they met, but my mom got clean when she got pregnant with me and my sister. But my dad was in and out of prison my whole life,
Hmm.
in California. And I mean, my mom was just doing the best she could, like single mother with twins and trying to do the most that she could with that. And so we moved around a lot. And personally, like, I mean, she knows this is the truth, so I guess I shouldn't worry about hurting her feelings, but it was she was always chasing after a man or felt that she needed a man to be able to do it, I guess. I don't know. And so between meeting new men and moving in and breakups and moving out, and yeah, it was a lot.
So, did you know your dad at all, or you just knew of him?
The first time I met him, I was 10 years old, and we went to visit my aunt, his sister in California. And the man that my mom was staying with, that we were living with at the time, he was a little more wealthy. But that was the longest that we'd stayed in one period for a time, and that was 4 years, I think. And so he sent us out there to visit family. And that was the first time that like I remember meeting him. I know that I met him a few times maybe when I was younger, but not old enough to remember. And then
Mhm.
when I got into high school, I wrote him letters. He was incarcerated at Folsom and Coalinga uh, prisons in California. And then I visited with him one time as an adult. He came down and stayed with us for like a week or two in Texas.
And what was he incarcerated for?
Um, drugs, gang activity. So when I was in sixth grade, he was shot in the back and paralyzed from the waist down.
Wow.
Just from, being gang affiliated, and they went to go, as I understand it, they went to go pick up a gun. They said they were in the closet. He went to the closet, went to open it, and they shot him in the back. He said that he thinks the only reason they let him live is because he said, I have two kids or two girls, that I don't even know, and I want the chance to know them or whatever. He learned to walk again though, and then he actually became an amputee in 2021. He lost his leg because just like he didn't have much feeling down there and it got infected or whatever. And
Do you know what kind of gang involvement he was in?
um Aryan Brotherhood, as far as I know,
Okay. All right.
white supremacy. So
And was he a member, or he was just an affiliate and got involved with the wrong group?
he was a member, as far as I know, he was a member.
Wow. Okay.
And I mean, I have my own theories as to like why, because like he said that he's not necessarily, he doesn't hate, black people, but that he doesn't believe in interracial dating. But I think part of the reason why maybe like he was so prominent about that when he was younger was I have half relatives, like I have aunts who are half. And my grandma, I think his mom kind of, got with a black dude, and I think that he was not nice to my dad, and I think that that just made him have a lot of anger.
Yeah.
And in California, like, joining gangs and doing drugs is kind of the norm in poverty areas, I guess.
Yeah. And if you're white and you go to prison, that's usually the
You don't have an
way,
option. Yeah.
way you gotta go. Yeah, exactly. I don't
Yeah.
know. Many people don't know, but when you go to prison, it's really divvied up into ethnicity. They refer to it as a car. So,
Yeah.
if you're
I
Mexican, you have the Mexican mafia, and you have another faction of the Mexican mafia. You have Aryan Brotherhood, and you have different factions of the Aryan Brotherhood. And then obviously, if you're black, you have the Bloods, the Crips, you have the the Black Gorilla family, so it all breaks down. So,
Both my ex-husbands are felons.
all right, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna
Or
get to
no, my one ex-husband and then my husband who passed is they
okay.
were both felons.
We're
So
gonna get to that. So,
yeah.
so you didn't know your dad, very much. Is he still alive?
Yep, we don't talk. He had logged into like one of my electronics when he was out there with us in Texas, and I saw
Mhm.
some photos that I think he was embarrassed about, and so we don't talk. My mom and him talk still, and
Mhm.
she's even told him you should reach out to Christina, but I think he's too embarrassed to, even though I don't care, but
Do you
I
want
get
to talk?
it.
Do you want to tell me what kind of pictures they were?
Um,
You don't have to if you don't want to.
they were him in, women's underwear and stuff. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right.
yeah.
So you also have a
So
twin sister,
I do.
and how is she doing?
She's a prude.
Oh, she's the complete opposite of you.
Yes.
Does she have married? Is she married? Does she have kids or anything like that?
She's currently going through a divorce right now, and she's got two kids, a boy and a girl.
How long was she married?
They were married for frick, I want to say 6 or 7 years. They got married in 2018 or 2017, something like that.
Okay, so it's not as crazy as your life, but it's not really stable like we would. Okay, gotcha.
Mm-mm.
All right,
Yeah.
so you're growing up. Tell me about your high school years. What was it like for you in high school?
Um, I grew up in a predominantly LDS state, and I wasn't LDS, so it was hard.
Now, what is
And
LES?
a Latter-day Saint.
Ah, okay.
So the state of Utah is like, how state and church are supposed to be separate, but really in Utah it's just not. It's
Yeah.
so prominent there that yeah. And majority of the state is, so all of my classmates were all LDS for the most part and
Okay.
pretty judgmental. And so yeah, I was a kind of not accepted, whether it be by my peers myself or their parents even, like, oh, like I remember in junior high school, like one of the vice principals had a hard on for me for like she hated me. I don't get why. I don't know why. I didn't know why. And then finally, I don't remember how I found out, but she had said that I reeked like cigarettes. So she thought that I was smoking cigarettes. And my aunt and uncle, they smoked in their house. So I'd go to school smelling like cigarettes. I didn't even realize it, but it just put a, bad kid label on me.
Yeah. Well, were you a bad kid? Were you acting out? Because in high school with that kind of background, I wouldn't be surprised.
Um, so, I mean, yeah, I started acting out in high school. But I mean, I wasn't,
But
even in
when you
junior
mean
high.
by acting out, you mean tell me exactly what you mean.
I started smoking pot and then
Yeah.
I started doing like party drugs like ecstasy and stuff. I started smoking
Mhm.
cigarettes and then in my junior year, I got pregnant and I dropped out.
And I'm assuming okay, so you dropped out of school and you got pregnant. And who was the father?
My first husband, Mark Wentworth.
Okay, so you got pregnant first and then got married.
Yes,
Okay, and you were a junior in high school, which means about 16, 17. How old was he?
he was 21,
Okay, and how'd you
22,
meet him?
21. Hmm?
How did you meet him?
His little sister went to school with me. She was a grade below me. And she was like, "Hey, my brother can get us alcohol." And we went over there to drink one night and he claimed me.
Yeah. So what's the age of legal consent in Utah?
I think as long as I mean, so my stepdad at the time did try and look it up to see if they could call the cops on him for statutory rape, which I did not agree with. And I was like, nope, I'm keeping this baby and that's not going to happen. And I had just turned 17, I think. Uh, yeah, I just turned 17, but I think it's 16.
Yeah, most states it's 16. All right,
Yeah, I know that
so
like with parental consent in Utah, you can get married at 14, I believe, but
yeah. Um, so you get pregnant. And I'm
Mhm.
assuming this guy is involved with drugs just like you.
I mean, no, he was an alcoholic, like a
Okay.
hardcore alcoholic.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
And so you guys decide to give it a shot and get married and move in together.
We actually did not get married until my son was 2 years old.
Okay.
And that marriage was a product of a fight. We were talking with friends one day and he's like, yeah, I don't believe in marriage. And I was like, what? Like I was going into this, like you said we'd get married one day. Like I was going into this thinking we'd get married one day.
Yeah.
And then for about a week, he's like, you want to get married? Like and I was like, nope, because you don't believe in it. He's like, no, I want to marry you. And I was like, nope, you don't believe in it. And then finally he's like, a week later, he's like, I really, like, I mean it. Like, I want to marry you. I was like, okay, gotcha, bitch. We're going to the courthouse on Monday. And that's what we did.
So you're already 17, right?
Hmm.
Well, let's say okay, so you're already 19,
Hmm.
and the groundwork for your life is already kind of set. It's already chaos, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have this child, and um, you get married, whether he wanted to or not. You get married. How long did the marriage last after that?
I think about a year.
That's it. Just less than a year. And when you split up, was he involved in the kid's life or no?
When we split up, uh, well, so I ended up by that point, by the end of our marriage, um, which I never understood his alcoholism, and then I became addicted to pills, to opiates, during that time. And sorry, can you repeat the question?
That's okay. It's okay. Was he involved with with the kid's
Yeah.
life?
So we actually, I left him and then I came back. I left our son there with him, but I came back because I was, going crazy at my mom's and he ended up using with me and we were getting high downstairs and my son fell and had to get 5 stitches in his forehead. And so then I sent my son to his dad's and then his dad sent him to my mom's. So for a while, like we didn't have him, but DCFS had said that they trusted that we were going to make the right decision and that grandparents would not give him back to us until we were, ready to do that. And then I was just kind of running and gunning, and my mom had him. And then my mom got sick, and so to she sent my son down to his dad's mom's in Albuquerque, and he was living down there. And even though he was screwing up down there or whatever, he was still active in our son's life. And I was actually the parent that was not in his life for a little while there.
So it
Um,
so it, so basically it just became a revolving door. Your
mhm.
your mother's life was chaotic, and your life was chaotic, and now your son's life is chaotic. Okay.
And yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
Um.
generational curse or
Yeah.
cycles.
Well, it's pretty common when it happens like that. Um. All right. So now figure you're 19 or whatever. You have this kid. You're trying to work things out. You're in and out. What are you doing for money at that point?
So I got a job at Coachman's Dinner and Pancake House in Utah when I was 15 years old, and I worked there all through this time. But then I wanted to make more money, so I started working at a bar cocktailing called Keys on Main. And then from there, I was saying to one of the door guys how I still needed to make more money because I ended up getting kicked out of my one job. One's night and day jobs don't mix. So I started working at the strip club as a cocktail waitress,
Okay. So you're at the strip
which
club as a
eventually
cocktail waitress, right?
turned into dancing
Oh,
inevitably.
yeah, yeah. You're one step away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be literally one step away. All right. So then you start dancing, and does that lead you into sex work, or there's more to it than that?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So when you were a cocktail waitress, were you doing sex work, or that didn't happen until you became a dancer?
That didn't happen until I became a dancer.
Okay. So walk me through it. Cocktail waitress, dancer, sex worker. How did that happen?
So I was cocktailing and I didn't think that I would ever start dancing. I was like, no, like I'm not gonna. And then the dancer manager, I don't know, we were just bullshitting one night and she's like, you should do it. And she was like living vicariously through other people, I feel like. But so she's like, yeah, you should do it. And then I tried to back out and she's like, nope, you said you would. So I ended up and the cocktail manager was ticked. So I ended up filling my position, cocktailing with my sister. I was like, hey, here's a good substitute waitress. And I had my sister come work as a cocktail and then I started dancing.
Well, identical
Um,
twins or fraternal twins?
we're identical mirror.
Really? That's funny. Yeah, I know somebody that looks just like me. Perfect. All right, so go ahead. Okay.
Yeah. So I started dancing and then we just had like a high roller come in one night and was just like blowing money and asked if, I could take the party out with him after, do a, private dance or whatever, which I mean, obviously like the intention was for more, but I was naive. And so I, you know,
Well,
ended
I
up
mean,
being there after my shift. Hmm.
how naive were you? You were around it. You saw the girls, dancing, and I'm sure you saw guys coming there throwing money at them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just the offer, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just so like the way that Southern Exposure operated was like cocktails had to get a certain amount of drink tabs. So we
Hmm.
had to have like 8 drinks a night that we had to have clients buy us, and it was a
Okay.
requirement, kind of like part of our house fee.
Okay.
So they had to buy us a special non-alcoholic drink because it's Utah. And so you kind of have to like schmooze up to these guys and just one of them was like, hey, like, I mean, I don't know, just hey, come party with us after. And he was an older guy, just kind of felt like he was harmless.
Hmm.
I don't know. Or I don't know.
So were
I don't know
you?
why I made the decision that night too. Maybe I needed the money really bad.
Yeah, that's usually what happens. I mean, it sounds like a slippery slope, right? You're in the
Yeah.
wrong, and you were in the wrong environment to begin with. So you're a cocktail waitress, and then it's a slippery slope. You go from cocktailing, saying I'm never going to dance, and you're a dancer saying I'm never gonna be a
Yeah.
sex worker, and then it just kind of falls into it. Today, it would be I'm going on OnlyFans, but I'm only going to show bikini pics. And then a month later, somebody offers you money to be naked. And then a month after that, somebody offers you money to do, penetration. And then before you know it,
Yeah.
there you
Yeah.
say that is the virtual experience like that today, as opposed to years ago. It would be the way you went through it. Now,
Hmm.
um, tell me about that first night. Were there a group of you, and there's one elderly guy with a lot of money, or was there a few guys? How was it? Was it a bachelor party? How did it work?
It was him and another regular that came in
Okay.
to the club. Um, and it was just the two of them. And I honestly don't remember if there was another girl. I feel like there was another girl, but I don't like some of that's so cloudy.
Yeah.
I was, on drugs and it was such a long time ago. I know that there was a time where I had met with him and another girl before, but more often than not, because I met him with him several times after that. And it ended up being a loan. So
Like a regular client? What do you mean by alone?
no, I ended up being seeing him alone, like just
Oh,
myself.
I'm sorry.
That
I thought
was
you meant
right.
he would lend you money.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So he
yeah.
basically became a regular client, if you will.
Client for sex work.
Okay. Um,
Yeah,
if you don't mind me asking, that first night, do you remember what he paid you?
I don't. I don't know. I remember the other guy, the regular. He was a black guy. He was, getting handsy with me or whatever too, and I ended up leaving sooner, I think, than anticipated. And I don't think I ended up having sex with either of them that night. I don't think he paid me for sex that night. He just paid me to dance, get
Okay.
naked, whatever, hang out. And then I think I ended up leaving because I was just uncomfortable about it all. And then he'd gotten my number or whatever. So he asked me to come over after the other dude left and
Hmm.
then ended up paying me. It was a good amount because I know there's one time that he paid me the check, but he wrote me a check for like $3,500 to peg him.
To peg him. So your
And I
first
was
your
not nice about it.
so your first sexual experience was not you having sex with another guy. Your first sexual experience was you. For people who don't know what pegging is, the girl puts on a don't want to say that word.
Strap on.
On. Yeah, I'm not supposed to say that word on YouTube, but okay.
Oh, shoot,
It's all
sorry.
right. We can blurp it out. It's fine. It's fine. Um, uh, um, they put on a strap on and they basically do anal penetrating with the strap on. Did he? Did you have sex with him that night, or that's all that happened?
Um, I think probably both happened. Yeah.
Okay, and he paid you $3,500 for that one night.
Mhm.
All right, and then that was basically your door opening to sex work.
No, I mean, I think we had done it before that night. Had met up once before and it was just sex, n nothing like that. But then that was the next
No,
time, I
so
think.
yeah, so the first time you guys had sex, not the time where you pegged him. What did he pay you that first night?
I don't know, maybe
You
like,
don't remember. Okay.
no,
What did he do
probably like,
what did he do for a living? Because that's a significant amount of money.
I believe he owned his own HVAC company.
Oh, HVAC. Okay. All right.
Honestly, like that's what I feel I see almost the most of or a lot of is guys who own their own construction companies and
Yeah.
like hookers and blow. It's kind of just a thing, you know?
Okay. So at this point you're using drugs, you're exposed to sex work. You continue to do sex work at the same time. You still dancing, or you decide you're doing sex work full time?
I was still dancing, but I had an incident happen where I had to leave Utah. And so I went to pretend like I was dancing in Nevada the whole time because my sister ended up started dancing too. And
Hmm.
she was in Nevada dancing, like they went out there for a trip. And so I like ran out there and was like, hey, if the cops ask, like I've been in Nevada the whole time. And I started working at the Horseshoe Club. Um, but I got suspended from there too because they thought that I was selling or buying drugs at the club.
Were you?
Ended up, I'm pretty sure I probably was buying drugs that night, yeah. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Okay.
but they didn't have any evidence like he had said. And so he's like, we'll consider it or we'll think about it or whatever it
Oh,
was. And
yeah.
then yeah, so when I came back though, I didn't really have much credibility dancing or I tried to get back on dancing. But it's hard. It's hard to the money is just so much quicker and so much easier with sex work. And I mean, I was on so much drugs too that it's like I needed it, you know?
What kind
So
of drugs were you using at the time?
at the time I was on heroin and methamphetamine. But during all that time I was probably still on opiates, roxycodone, because you used to be able to smoke them. And
Did you
yeah,
inject
I
heroin, or
took a long time before I switched to heroin.
were you
All my
injecting
friends
heroin,
had already
or
switched. Huh?
were you injecting heroin, or were you snorting it?
So I was smoking it.
Okay.
And then I eventually did start shooting. But I was not working anymore by that point.
Yeah, that seems to
And
be the process. You get addicted to
yeah, like we were talking
painkillers,
about the slippery
OxyContin,
slope. Yeah,
and
exactly.
then you can't afford or can't get OxyContin, and heroin is a cheaper, more
Mm,
addictive version, and that's usually how it works. It's usually how
yeah.
it happens. So
And you
if you
go
don't
from
mind,
smoke
you
to the
don't have
next.
to, right? You don't have to tell me. But why did you have to leave Utah and go to Vegas?
So,
If it's something that you were going to incriminate yourself, then you don't have to say it. But
I mean, I don't, it would be kind of incriminating, but I mean, the statute of limitations, I think, would be up on it anyway. I
okay.
don't know. And I already was partly sentenced on it, I guess. Um, I was in a rental car and I was going to hit a pill and um I was leaving like the strip club area and I everybody was stopped because the tram was going by and I ended up rear-ending this lady in the rental car. And she like gets out of her car, she's making a scene, she's being crazy, screaming. And then like I'm like, okay, we need to get out of the street. So I pull off and I'm like over in the street and she's just still in the street freaking out or whatever. And I'm just like, I can't, like I'm gonna get caught with, drugs. Like I can't. And I ended up just fleeing the scene.
Mm.
And so then I ended up going to a friend's house, and then we ended up having a guy come over and who brought us some drugs. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, like I can take the car from you. I'll take it to a chop shop, whatever, and you can just report it as being stolen." And so that's what I did. Turns out he only ended up putting it on uh putting it on blocks and taking, the tires off or whatever, and didn't do a good job with it. So yeah, so I ran out to Nevada and I was just like, "Hey, I've been out here the whole time," and just said I kind of had like a trap house thing going on, or I just had a party house. People were in and out all the time. Anyways, the doors were never locked. Um, and so I just said that the keys were hanging up and it was stolen from there. When I did my amends when I got sober, my sponsor wanted me to try and like rectify that for financial amends or whatever. And so I reached out to Hertz. I still can't rent with them, but they never responded. They never asked about it. I was never charged on any of it. So, but I did
Okay.
reach out to them, never heard back.
Okay.
So, but they
So,
still won't rent to me. I know that for a fact.
oh yeah, right. If you at this point, when you run to Nevada, how old were you?
I think I was about 21, 22, 22.
And where was your son at this point?
My son was in Albuquerque with his dad and his grandma still,
Okay. And how old
and he was
was
just about starting kindergarten.
so he was
And
about
I was
five or
supposed to
six?
have him back. Like when I sent my son down there, I had planned on getting clean and like getting him back right away. And then it was just kind of like out of sight, out of mind. Like he was gone and I was doing drugs and living this lifestyle. And I missed him, but it was just like, it just got easier and easier to be away from him.
Hmm.
And so he was down there with his dad and he knew he was safe. And my lifestyle wasn't exactly necessarily safe, and so he had more stability there than he would with me. And so when it came time to enroll him in school, they're like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "I guess just enroll him. You can have him for the year, and hopefully I'll have my shit together by next year."
Hmm. And
It didn't happen that
was
way.
his yeah was his father using drugs at the time as well?
Um, Allegedly, I mean, he said no and everything, and I was concerned about it, but like, I mean, when I got sober and I got my son back, he ended up going to prison for selling drugs for 7 years. So, I mean, yeah, he probably was using at the time.
Okay. All right. So you come back from Nevada, now you're back in Utah. Um, so take me from there. Are you still dancing in Utah, or you just continue to escort?
I kind of started dancing again, but I was continuing to escort. And the person who came and got me from Nevada was actually, we weren't seeing each other like that at the time, but was my second husband. And then I didn't really know what I was going to do or where I was going to go. I was mostly only doing sex work though, but I got back out to Utah. I ended up moving in with him and his dad, and we were just using together a lot.
And so it was same thing, meth, heroin, oxycontin, that kind of thing. And this was
Mhm.
you and your now, which would become your second husband.
Which would become my second husband, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So,
Mhm.
what made you guys get married?
Um, he and
Yeah.
I refer to him as my husband. We were common law by the time he passed, but we were actually never really married. We set up several court dates and like, to get married with the justice or whatever. But no, I drug my feet on actually finalizing my second divorce or my first divorce. It was my only divorce.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
I dragged my feet. He and I were together for 6 years, 6.5 years before my divorce was finalized with my first husband.
Okay. And
And
then how?
so then we tried to get married after that, and you have to wait 6 months. And then we relapsed by that point, and
Right.
yeah,
Um, so you're with your second husband now. It's like you said, you're kind of just living together. You're not really married. It's common law. Um, and you guys are still using drugs. And what are you guys doing for a living?
hustling.
So you were still escorting, sex working,
Hmm.
and he was selling drugs.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And and you guys were living with his mom, or you guys were out on your own at this point?
No, we were living with his dad.
His dad.
Oh my God, his dad.
Okay.
Anyway,
All right.
we were living with his dad. His dad ended up meeting a sugar mama in Portugal and ended up moving out of the place, but still had the place. So we were kind of living there.
Okay.
and he was visiting his sugar mama in Portugal.
All right. Um, now, what happens with your second husband?
So he ended up violating parole because, like I said, he was a felon.
Hmm.
And he ended up having to go back. When he went back, it was in December, and I'd found out that my son was in Salt Lake visiting his grandparents for Christmas,
Hmm.
and they wouldn't let me see him because they didn't know what state I'd be in, and it broke my heart. And so, like, for a minute, I contemplated, just taking myself out, and then I ended up going to St. Mark's Hospital to check into their behavioral unit and to get clean. And from there, I found out I was pregnant with mine and my second husband's daughter. And
Hmm.
then I went to rehab
Hmm.
and
And how old are you by this point?
24, 23, 24.
Okay. So now you're pregnant with your husband's daughter. I mean, now you're pregnant with your daughter, and do you wind up getting clean at this point,
I did.
or
Yeah.
okay, all right. So you got cleaned with your second kid. Now, what about your husband?
He was incarcerated until after she was born.
Okay, and was he clean
So
when he got out, or
he,
no?
so I mean, everybody recommended to me in treatment not to date him, and I wasn't really sure like how that was going to go. Statistically, like if you are with a partner that you used with, you're more likely to relapse in the future,
Mm-hmm.
etc. So, and I just, I wanted to do it right and I wanted to do it all the way. And so like I wasn't sure, but when he got out, like I knew that I'd melt like butter and I did. And she was 3 months old when he got out. And
Mm-hmm.
then from there, like we did it right for a lot of years. Like we moved in together, we got real jobs,
Right.
we worked our asses off. And then raised our kids. Well, so I got my son back by that point, and his dad went to prison. Um, and then yeah, we just did that for years. And then in 2020, in 2019, he lost his job, and then he got a job offer in Texas. So I quit my job, which I was working for the rehab that I'd graduated from. Um, at that point, and I quit that job, which was my dream job at the time, to move to Texas. And then he was working on like building the oil tanks out there. And
Yeah, the
then
oil riggers. Yeah, it's big in Texas. Yes.
he had to have a special license or whatever, a safety license, and then he ended up doing something that pissed the safety guy off. So he lost his TWIC card and they ended up sending him on another job out in Louisiana. And he was rooming with another coworker, and that coworker got a shipment of meth there to him and he dumped it on the table and was like, "You want some?" And he ended up relapsing, went crazy in Louisiana. Um,
So where are
and
you
then
living at? Where are you living at this point when he's in
I was in
Louisiana?
Texas.
You're in
So
Texas,
we
and
were
you
we were
had the
living
two
in,
kids.
yeah, yeah.
Were you still sex working, or you were working your
No, 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 no. I was after I got pregnant with my daughter, I never thought that I'd do sex work again, ever. Like
Okay, all right,
I never thought I'd go back to it. I'm still, I mean, yeah, I never thought I'd do sex work again. I worked a
yeah,
serving job for years and then I started working as a case manager at a drug and alcohol treatment center, and
yeah,
so,
yeah.
and then by that point I was just doing the stay-at-home mom thing. Um,
Okay, so he relapses, and what happens? Does he go back to jail? Is he
It
just
was, he was off paper by this time. That's why we were able to move out of state. And so it was so bad though that I had the kids. I didn't have a vehicle. I couldn't, go get him or whatever. He had our only working vehicle. So his mom flew down from Salt Lake to Texas, got a rental car, went and got him in Louisiana, and everything was shut down because it was the height of the pandemic.
Mhm. Right?
Picked him up, and he was just so paranoid and crazy, just bonkers out of his mind. She picked him up. They came back. She took the kids back up to Salt Lake with her, and I got him
Mhm.
clean.
What do you mean you
And
got
then,
him clean? You brought him to rehab?
yeah, like no, I helped him, get clean at home.
Oh, so he did it. He did it cold turkey with you. He did it.
Mhm.
Okay, and then what happens then?
And then we were both trying to get work. Um, I ended up working at starting work, and I hadn't worked in, almost over a year. But I started working as a CNA in Texas, and he was still having trouble trying to find work. But his brother had a contracting business back out in Salt Lake, and that's where the kids were. So he flew up to Salt Lake in May 2022, 2020. And I stayed down in Texas for work. And then he ended up relapsing while he was out in Salt Lake still, because it was a short amount of time between, his newfound sobriety. And I ended up taking 71 Wellbutrin, and I ended up being in a coma for 4 days and life
Jesus.
flighted to Houston.
Now,
And
explain what Wellbutrin is.
Wellbutrin is an antidepressant that, yeah, that I was prescribed. And in Texas, they give them to you 90 at a time.
Okay. So you were
Um,
trying to self-delete.
yeah,
Yeah, you had them.
I
Yeah.
was trying to take my life,
Yeah.
and yeah, we got in a fight that night. And I don't really remember it. I don't remember a lot from that night, or just basically what people told me or messages that I'd seen afterwards. Like my mom said, we talked on the phone that night and I was in a good mood, and it was just bizarre to her. But yeah, I ended up being life flighted to Houston. They put me in a medically induced coma for 4 days. I was hospitalized for a month. I had to learn everything again. Like I didn't have any short-term memory. They wouldn't let him come see me because I was it was the pandemic. And
Hmm.
I would just be on the phone with him and I was like, okay, so when are you going to be here? And he's like, I can't come. They won't allow it, pandemic. And then I was like, okay, where are the kids? He's like, they're in Salt Lake with my mom. He'd flown back down to Texas. And then, a couple minutes later, I'd be like, okay, so when are you going to be here? And like, I just
Hmm.
couldn't, remember anything. I had no short-term memory for a
Right.
while. And then
Okay.
I had to learn to walk again. Um, and I'd even forgotten my social security number, which I didn't realize till after I got out of the
Wow.
hospital and stuff. So yeah, it was a lot. Um,
Okay.
I tried to leave though, and he came up to Houston. He drove up there,
Hmm.
and they wouldn't let me see him. They wouldn't let us talk on the phone, because my mom was worried that he had been abusing me, which he hadn't been. And so she said that to them. So they wouldn't even take my insurance because he had ended up getting me an insurance agent, so that way we could have the stay covered and the life flight and all of it. And they ended up
Hmm.
hanging up on the insurance agent and was like, yeah, like you can't talk to her. And I tried to leave and they tackled me into a bush, and it was a
They
lot of
what?
craziness. Yeah.
They tackled you. Knew what does that mean?
I tried to leave and I got out of the hospital and I'm outside, like walking down the sidewalk, and the guys, like security, like tackled me into a bush. I
Oh,
was,
I.
I was wearing like paper scrubs, and they like
Yeah.
ripped, and it was a whole thing. And then the cops, like, they ended up, I heard them through their mic, like, let her go, let her go. I took off. Officers showed up. He shows up. We all, the officers took me back to the hospital. And then, yeah, and then they put me on lockdown after that, gave me booty juice
Booty
to
juice.
calm down. Yeah, just
What?
like a sedative.
Ah, okay. And you refer to it as booty
Yeah.
juice. Okay. I'm learning a lot today.
It's because they give you a shot in the butt. They give you a shot in your booty.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's like a tranquilizer kind of.
Wow. All
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Okay, so now where do you go from here?
Um, After I got out of treatment for all the psych stuff, well, I was in the neurology unit for a long time, but then I moved to psych, and then from there we went home. And he was still using the whole time I was hospitalized. Our house was freaking torn apart. Um,
Are you doing any sex work at this point to make extra
nope,
money? Not at all.
nope,
So
nope.
you just okay.
No, I didn't think that I would be doing. Like I said, I didn't think I'd be doing again. I ended up. He's still using. He's making a shot in front of me, and I ended up relapsing with him. I'm like, okay, our kids are going to be back home in like a week or two. We are going to use like just one time and then we're done. And that's what I did. Um, and he did not. But
Right.
we ended up eventually leaving Texas. He was working for a while, but just after, the head injury with my attempt and everything. And I just missed my family, my sister. Mm, Um, I ended up, we ended up coming back up to Salt Lake and I thought things were good. I was, sober. I only used that 1 week, like I said.
Mhm.
He appeared to be sober still. He actually hid it for a while that time. And then and then there was just some like online infidelity and I kicked him out because he was using on top of that and he was at his mom's and then she asked me, she's like, "Can you please trade me? Like let me have the kids and take him back. I can't do him. I can't do this. He's driving me crazy. Like, can you please switch me?"
Mhm.
And we'll just do it like we did last time. And I'm like, okay. And then inevitably a few months later, I ended up relapsing too. And then we lost everything. DCFS was called, but again, they didn't take my rights or anything because they knew that I was doing what I was supposed to be in the sense of like I had sent my kids away, they were somewhere safe. But my sister ended up making some bullshit accusations, which they ended up losing anyway. But she made some bullshit accusations, and
What kind of accusations?
um, they were mad that DCFS was not giving them information, and they wanted my son from my husband's mom. So they ended up saying that like they ended up going over DCFS's head and filing a claim in their county because we were in different counties, in their county directly with the court. And in doing that, they had said that like my son was in an extreme danger of his life, that he was being abused daily, and that like his life was in danger. And they were able to get an ex parte order. I wasn't even able to talk to my son for like a month or two till we had court for it. But I just remember sheriffs like showing up at our house and serving us, coming to take my son away from me. And I'm like, he's not here. There's no kid for you to take. Like I already, he hasn't been here for months. Like I already got him out of the home. Um, and so yeah, and that's what they just kind
When
of
they said abusing, would they do they mean
physically
SA?
abusing. His life was in danger.
Okay. Was any of that true?
Mm-mm.
No.
Nope.
Um,
She also said
but
that I was using heroin in front of him, and I had when we relapsed, we were not. I didn't relapse on heroin. I've still been off heroin since 2015.
right, right. Okay. All right. So you had your kids taken away, um, and then he's still using, you're using, and then where do you go from there? I mean,
I was working.
it seems like it seems like it just seems like a roller coaster ride. You know,
Yeah,
for a
it
very short
was.
period of time, you're doing okay, and then you kind of fall off the wagon again,
I
and then
was 6 years sober. No, I from the
yeah,
time I had my daughter to the time I relapsed, I was 6 years sober, like when I relapsed.
yeah. But was he?
I mean, he was 5 years, I think, when he relapsed. And I mean, I question myself, now
Right,
I'll never have the answers, obviously now, but I wonder, like sometimes I wonder, like, was this going on the whole time and I never knew,
right, yeah, 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 yeah.
you know?
Now,
So,
all right. So your husband passed. So talk about how your husband passed.
he got out of jail and he went and saw his doctor so he could sell his script of Suboxone. She put him, she knew he was selling it, so she put him on the same dose that he was before he went into jail. Um, and when he went and saw her, he told her that he wasn't having psychosis yet, but that he was having intrusive thoughts. So she put him on a new medication. It was an antipsychotic medication and also a central nervous system depressant. And then she also didn't realize that he had a systolic click. So he ended up having a heart attack because he took the new medication, the heart condition, and then he took the medication that she'd prescribed and the other one that she knew he was selling. He took them all, and his heart overworked,
So
and he had a heart attack.
basically he overdosed. He was just taking all the medications that were prescribed to him.
No, he didn't overdose. He
It
had a
was a
heart
heart
attack.
attack, but it was due to the overindulgence of the drugs he was using.
Mhm.
Okay, all right,
He
all right.
wasn't. He didn't overindulge on them. He took them as prescribed. Like his toxicology was not Yeah, he took a medication that he thought, so he was selling the Suboxones, and I heard him on the phone with the guy that he was selling them to, and he's like, I thought you usually got this much, and he's like, I do, but I figured maybe if I take them as prescribed, like it'll actually do what it's supposed to do. Like I had rehab and probation set up for him in Kentucky when he got out of jail. Um, and like we were ready to go, like he wanted to turn it around. But yeah, so he took the new antipsychotic, the downers, because he thought, I don't think she properly warned him about not taking those two medications together,
Hmm.
because she just thought he
Okay.
was selling them.
Oh, I
And
see.
then,
So it was a
pardon me,
combination that was the problem. Oh, okay. Okay.
yes.
Now it makes sense. Okay. All right. So now where does that leave you?
Um, Sex work.
So that's it. You needed money, and he was gone, and you had no choice. Well, you thought you had no choice, and you went back to sex work. And where were your
Mhm.
kids at this? And now, okay, how old were you by this point?
I was 28.
Okay.
Ooh, no. So no, hold on, let's see. So in 2022, I would have been 31, I think. And that's kind of like when I started dabbling in it again. But yeah, my grandfather sexually assaulted me in 2022. I was trying to reunify with the kids. My grandfather sexually assaulted me while I was staying there. I left. I sent my daughter to Kentucky to be with her dad's mom, and my son to Albuquerque to be with his dad's mom. And then I went and lived in a tent in Provo Canyon with my husband. And I knew I wasn't going to be getting sober. So I sent them away again. Because like I had had them back. I was trying to get back on track. And then in December 2022, I end up leaving Utah to go be with my daughter and his mom in Kentucky. I ended up getting stuck in Denver. I almost died in Denver. It was the craziest freaking experience of my life. Denver's crazy. I don't like Denver. But that whole thing happened. And then in 2023, he went to jail. Then I came back to Utah. And then while I was out here, he got out of jail. He died a week after getting out of jail in May 2023. And then I was kind of starting to do like the OnlyFans and the Tryst and all that stuff. Like I was starting to get that up and going while he was in
Hmm.
jail.
Yeah.
Um, and then after he died, though, it really took off. And I mean, he was apprehensive about me doing that again. When he got out of jail, he's like, I don't want you to have to do that. Like I don't. And I just told him, I was like, well, we made choices and this is where we're at now. And the adult thing is that this amount of money can get us to Kentucky now, and have our storage unit paid for and everything where we don't have to worry. And it's just kind of, it is what it is. Like, this is where we're at.
All right.
And so he ended up, dying. And then I ended up really focusing on my OnlyFans, more so than my Tryst, because it took me a long time to get approved for Tryst.
Okay.
And
What
having
now?
my
What's
OnlyFans.
tryst? Tryst is where somebody goes to
It's where
find.
my personal ad is at. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So if somebody's looking for a sex worker, they go to Tryst. Okay, I gotcha. Give me the Reader's Digest version of why you don't like Denver. What happened? You said you almost died. What does that mean?
Um, okay, Reader's Digest version. So I
Yes.
had a crazy roommate in Lehigh that I was leaving. Like I moved out of her house to go to Kentucky. She was fucking insane. Her dad got me that rental car to pay me off because she was fucking insane. And then she ended up calling the cops on me, knowing I had warrants. I got arrested and they impounded the car. And then this was at the edge of Utah right before I got to Colorado. And then they said that the car was going to go to Denver. It was closer, or Grand Junction. So I ended up traveling there to get all my belongings out of the car. My whole life's in that car. And then they ended up not sending the car there, and I was stranded out there. And I met, obviously, like I didn't have any drugs, and I wanted to find drugs. So I found, some guy, just some half Mexican guy, like at the train station or the bus station, Greyhound. And I was like, hey, what's up? And then I was just like, yeah, I need to get out to Colorado Springs so I can make it to Kentucky. And I ended up hanging out at this trap house there. Like it was the craziest experience I'd ever had. But like while I was out there, I had so many people tell me that like I was one of the four riders of the apocalypse, like one of the four horsemen for the riders of the apocalypse, that I was Aphrodite reincarnate, and just wild trippy. Like everybody there that was on the drugs, like they were just so crazy, just psychosis, paranoia, like in their own world. it was insane. Like it was crazy. And I remember I ended up my brother-in-law, so my husband's brother below him, bought me a ticket to Kentucky. And I took the train out there. But I remember like when I first got to Denver Airport, it was needlessly big. And I was like, I'm gonna live and die in this airport now. Like I was like, I was just so overwhelmed. But yeah.
Okay.
Um,
All
so
right. So let's fast forward to what's happening now because you pretty much brought me up to present
Crusade,
time. So where are you living now?
I live in Idaho,
And you're a full-time sex worker?
full-time sex worker.
Do you have normal clientele,
I do. I
regulars?
just got one today.
You just okay. Are you using any drugs or alcohol?
Um, Here and there.
Okay, so you're not completely sober. Okay. Um, and what about your kids? Where are your kids?
My son lives with his dad now. His dad is got out of prison. He's doing really well. They both are. He lives with his dad in Park City, Utah,
Mm,
and my daughter is with her dad's mom in Utah County.
okay. All right. All right, Christina. Um, I want to thank you for being very honest. That was a very intense interview, but I appreciate it, greatly. I hope that it seems like you're on the right path. But let me explain. It seems like you're kind of headed in the right direction, but not 100% in the right direction yet. It seems like you're a step or two of what you were, if that makes sense. You know,
Yeah,
you're not using drugs regularly, it's kind of here or there, and but you're still sex working, but your kids are kind of stable with the dad, right? And so I hope you stay on the same path, right, and continue, because you're still a very young girl, and you're a beautiful woman. So hopefully, only good things happen from here on in. No, I just want you to be okay. That's all. But I appreciate you coming on and being very honest because I know it's difficult to open up and be honest. Now, you have the because of your stories and your life, you have been thinking about writing a book.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that would be an interesting book, that's for sure. So let's see. I've had plenty of authors on that we've talked about, talked to and interviewed about certain topics. Maybe I can get you in touch with them.
That'd be awesome. That'd be
Would you?
phenomenal.
All right. I'll reach out to a couple of them that I've had interviewed and see if they are interested. And then we will be in touch and I'll let you know. Once again, thank you very much for being honest. And I hope only the best for you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Christina. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Bye bye.